Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military Summary channel, and this short video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous night of the local time. First we're going to start with Ukraine with Bakhmut or Artemovsk, and just today and yesterday there were a few videos, and today we start receiving the updates and the results of another bloody offensive operation of Ukrainian forces on the northern flank of Artemovsk. The Ukrainians sent a significant number of armored vehicles and infantry along the railways, like this one, in direction of the settlements like Yagidne and in direction of settlements like Berkhovka, Dubovo, Vasilievka. So that was the movement of the Ukrainian forces along the railways. The Russians published the video of that movement. On this screen you can see that the Ukrainian armored fist, including at least five armored vehicles that were just spotted on this video, were attacking the Russian positions. Mainly the Ukrainians were using the Western countries' armored vehicles like EPR and CV-19, the Swedish armored vehicle. The Russians, of course, controlled the situation. They saw everything. They discovered the Ukrainians at the beginning of their movement, and after a few minutes of a probably peaceful movement, the Russians start bombing and shelling the Ukrainian positions and the Ukrainian armored vehicles. And most of those vehicles were destroyed as a result of Russian fire. First, the Russians allowed the Ukrainians to move. Of course, they didn't attack them somewhere in the vicinity of Kalinovka or in the vicinity of Kanal or Bogdanovka. The Russians allowed the Ukrainians to get as close as possible to their positions with one purpose, just to get them into the trap and to make an ambush for them, and not to allow the Ukrainians to retreat, to turn them back and to retreat and to save their armored vehicles. Somewhere in the south of Berkhovka water reservoir, the Russians start attacking the Ukrainians' convoy with Lancet drones. For example, on this video we see how the Russians managed to destroy at least one Bradley, one CV-19 and one EPR 113 armored vehicle. So all this situation took place in the vicinity of railways. Furthermore, we got another somewhere. Of course, the Ukrainians were allowed to get as close as possible to the Russian positions, but that was a small trap, and with another heavy losses for the Ukrainian side. As soon as the Ukrainian armored vehicle were destroyed, the Russians made their tactic. They're using few steps of counterattacks. First, they allow the enemy to get as deep as possible. Then they start bombing them with drones. And when the Ukrainian forces realize that they're not going to survive, and not to allow the Ukrainians to step back, the Russians send helicopters like Ka-52, and from the distance, the helicopters start attacking the retreating Ukrainian forces, or at least those forces who stuck on the edge positions. In this video we see how the Russians attacked the Ukrainian armored vehicle somewhere on the northern part of Artemovsk with their missiles Vikhr. So the armored vehicle, as you can see, was destroyed. So that was another failure. I'll remind you that since the 1st of August we got a lot of updates from this bridgehead, so that was not the last, not the one attack of the Ukrainian forces. The Ukrainians during the previous week, during the previous 7 days, made a lot of attempts to attack in this area. If you ask my opinion, I don't understand the purpose of this attack, because there is one purpose probably of this attack, is that Western countries ordered the Ukrainians to destroy all the Western weapon they have, with one purpose: not to allow this Western weapon to get into Russian hands. Because only if you know that soon they're going to be peace negotiation, of course, first of all you need to destroy the armored vehicles that were sent to Ukraine, because they don't want these armored vehicles to get to the Russian hands. On the southern flank we also got some updates. The Ukrainians continue artillery preparation in direction of Andreevka. We know that currently this settlement is very important for the Ukrainians, because without taking the settlement, without penetrating this area, the Ukrainians don't have chances to encircle Klishchiivka and to cut this area into many pieces. For example, today we got more updates from the Ukrainian side, how they were bombing and shelling the Russian positions in that area, trying to attack Russian machine gun positions, Russian drone command centers, and so on. So the situation in Andreevka reminds me the situation in Urozhaine, Staromayorsk, when the Ukrainians realized that they don't have chances to take control over the settlement. The only thing they can do is to destroy every single stronghold in the settlement and to force the Russians to step back. Of course, after these tactics, the Ukrainians will be able to enter the settlement, but they will appear in the same situation as the Russians, but in less quality, because the Russians, after Ukrainians enter the settlement, will be able to attack the Ukrainians, and for the Ukrainians there will be no place to hide. Now, furthermore, the sources reported that Ukrainians have already prepared and complete the regrouping in the vicinity of Klishchevka. After a few weeks of very fierce clashes for that settlement, we saw a small operational pause that took place, probably that been taking place since the beginning of August till today, or even more, probably from the end of July. And according to the source we have, the Ukrainians have completed the regrouping. They have brought fresh forces in Kramatorsk, Konstantinovka, Chasiv Yar, and currently the Ukrainians have already created and not created but prepared 9 battalions to complete the storming mission of Klishchevka. If we calculate the number of battalions up to 400 soldiers, that means that Ukrainians have already prepared more than around 3,600 soldiers who will try to capture Klishchevka. Significant number of forces just for few weeks of just for few streets of a small village. That means that Ukrainians realized the level of defense of the Russian forces in this area and the level of losses that Ukrainians will have as a result of that attack. Of course, the Ukrainians will try to attack in direction of Andreevka. The Ukrainians will try to attack along the brushes to the southern part of Klishchevka. The Ukrainians will try to attack the Russian forces from the northern fortification, and of course the Ukrainians will try to attack in direction of the forest and in direction of the forest lines and railways in direction of Artemovsk. And all this operation probably is going to take place even probably this week, so we'll see. When talking about other front lines, the situation, of course, is stable. We have some updates, some videos from the Liman front line with Lancet strikes, which confirms the positions of both sides, either the Russians and the Ukrainians. This is another video from Karamzinovka bridgehead. According to the author of this video, the Russians published the video how they were attacking the Ukrainian positions, the Ukrainian stronghold among the forest lines, which confirms the Ukrainian position that this sector is under Ukrainian control. We're showing this video just for these purposes. So probably there are nothing more happened during the previous night on the situation on the front lines. So we got just another very interesting and funny video that we got from Makarovka. This video is about Ukrainian forces. At some point of time, some Ukrainian tank took a decision to cross the river in the vicinity of Makarovka, and basically that soldier have sunken the Ukrainian tank in that river, and of course the tank driver survived, but so we see the situation in Ukrainian army. Now let's move and let's complete the story about Saudi Arabia. As you know, the negotiation process have started there without Russia, of course, about the peace agreement, upcoming further peace agreement in Ukraine. And the most of the experts are saying that that meeting and those negotiations were pretty successful. They gave us some new hope, let's call it like this. And the most important that people are saying about the results of that negotiations is that Ukrainians agreed to start a peaceful agreement with the Russians without need and necessity for the Russian forces to leave the entire Ukraine. So basically, we can say that Ukrainians can agree with a peace agreement with the Russians. As I understand, they want to return the entire territory of Ukraine, but they allow the Russians to hold their bases on the territory that is currently under Russian control. Of course, it doesn't mean that the Russians will agree on this type of negotiations, on this type of like agreement. But anyway, this is like the first step to the peace agreement, when the Ukrainians realize that they don't have chances to force the Russians to step back from a DPR, LPR, Zaporozhye, and Crimea. When talking about another African region like Niger, we got also a lot of updates from this country in the western part of Africa, and the most important is that Niger authorities have closed the airspace above this country. That means that something really interesting is going to happen within the next few days in this region of the world. Furthermore, the Niger prepares for possible ECOWAS invasion. The rebel authorities, according to this news, sent reinforcements to the border, closed the airspace over the country, and declared that they would not retreat despite by the expiration of the ultimatum of the military council. And furthermore, we also got some kind of announcement from Niger authorities that intervention plans have been finalized by ECOWAS, and that they pre-deployed of their troops has commenced by 2 nations in West Africa. So this is a very interesting situation. We see that the Niger authorities have intensified their actions after the Wagners have redeployed their forces in the capital of this city, of this country. So basically, they realized some support. And of course, there is like military instructors of Wagner. They know what to do, they know how to do, and they know what exactly to do. So basically, as I understand, the Niger authorities started implementation of a special plan that was prepared by the Russian Ministry of Defense with help of Wagner instructors. And that's it for today. For this short video, Military Summary channel reminds to condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes to my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.